Oh my God, Anthony, we are back for a special edition of No Vacancy Live here. We're going to be talking about how to honor some housekeepers today. What do you think of that?
I feel shiny.
You feel shiny. All right, let's run the credits and get right.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Glenn Hausman here with the one, the only, the incredible Anthony Melchiori, who I know is incredibly super passionate about housekeeping. Isn't that right, Anthony?
I like housekeepers because they clean up messes.
They sure do. You definitely want them to clean up all of those messes, especially the ones that I seem to leave around all over the place. Don't you think so? Listen, I'm excited today because we've got on Patty Olinger, and she's the executive director of the Global Biorisk Advisory Council. And they are doing a brand new award sponsored by Cintas, the Cintas S.H.I.N.E Award, honoring professional housekeepers, and they are seeking nominations. You can nominate folks in your hotel, get those housekeepers recognized, cleaning up all those amazing messes. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about it. Let's bring in Patty Olinger. How are you, Patty?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thanks for being here today.
Welcome, Patty.
This is really exciting. Anthony, I don't want to take anything away from you because of your passion for housekeeping. Why don't you get this one started off?
No, I just said hi. So go ahead. You start it and then I'll come in.
All right. So listen, Patty, what I really love is that this thing here, this contest, this ability to recognize folks within the housekeeping department is so needed right now. We already know it's the hardest job in the entire building. And a lot of times housekeepers go underappreciated, but you're launching those 2021 Cintas S.H.I.N.E Awards where the grand prize winner is going to receive $5,000 cash prize plus additional prizes for their property. And other folks too, who place near the top are also going to get a great series of packages to their hotels as well. Very exciting, Patty. Congratulations. What made you guys want to do this in conjunction with Cintas to help all of those housekeepers out there be recognized for the amazing work they do every single day?
So I think you've already said it. You know, this is a group of individuals that are at the front line. They are there to help. You know, when you think about everything that GBAC talks about, prepare, respond, recover, and being resilient for now and in the future, this is exactly one of the main groups that is right there to help us on a day-to-day routine basis, as well as when we're in need of, specialty services. Our frontline custodial services, our housekeepers, they need to be recognized, and they have done an amazing job this last year. And sometimes while they're scared, while they're concerned, they've been there to support all of us keeping open and moving forward.
It's interesting you say that. They've done all of this in being scared and being in the front line, where they're actually sent to clean the very virus we're all staying home to prevent. And especially in the beginning when we didn't know if you can get it off surfaces. Imagine going into a hotel room the day everything got shut down, and when we were all sanitizing our groceries and we were all opening up doors with our elbows, which we still do. Think about going in and you're not even cleaning up your family's mess. You're not even cleaning your family's sheets or toilet or shower. You're cleaning a complete stranger. And many of them, I would imagine, had the COVID disease when they were in hotel rooms. So it really is this year. If it's not this year, then what year would it be? And it's absolutely, it warms my heart because anybody that knows me. Housekeepers are first, second, and third on my list.
Absolutely.
So it's really great that you're recognizing people in this particular way. And again, I encourage everybody to go out there because Cintas is seeking the stories of those that have gone above and beyond for guests and coworkers during the pandemic. So get those stories out there. You can go to cintas.com/shine awards to register now. Registration is open for 1 month until October 15th. So think about that person at your property who's doing the right thing every single day, had that special moment that needs to be recognized, and you too could also win prizes for your property. So, Patty, I got to ask you, a lot of things have changed with the way that we're doing housekeeping in there. What are you seeing right now as the major thing that's changing other than making housekeeping as visible as possible these days?
Oh, they definitely are much more visible, and people are much more aware. The general public is really paying attention. It's not just about, is it, does it look pretty? Does it look clean? Does it smell nice? It's about, well, how are you cleaning? Are you cleaning for health? Is there, and what are you doing to show me that you're doing that? The education needs for the frontline training, for the frontline hospitality worker is growing, and keeping up with that in a mindful way is extremely important.
Right. So, Anthony, did you want to say something?
No, especially today, because they're so short staffed, and a lot of assistant general managers and general managers should be eligible for the award because they've been cleaning a lot of hotel rooms. So tell me the process of, if I'm a general manager, I'm a director, a supervisor, how do I go through the nominating process? And then how do you guys select, and tell us the whole process.
Okay. So what we need to do is by October 15th, on Friday, you can go and you can nominate via the website, which is www.cintas.com/shine awards. And when those nominations come in, there will be a review process that will be put in place. But please get your nominations in by October 15th. That's the important date.
Yep. And winners and runners up will be announced the week of November 8th. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So be sure you get your stories out there. It's really simple to do. You just click that link. You just put in your name, your contact information, what makes that housekeeper so special, and simply a photograph if you want to include that as well. So,
and can I nominate more than one person?
Yes. I mean, you absolutely can. I mean, I think the stories that are out there, the ones that I've heard, just, being able to connect with people are quite amazing. There are some folks who really have, we'll say risen to the top or shine. Let's put it that way. They really shine. And what they have done for their locations, for their customers, is really phenomenal.
Is there one story that stands out in your mind?
I don't really, that you're going to put me on the spot, Anthony. Having done that, I would say that just as a corporation, everybody knows that we've worked really closely with Hyatt. And when I have been at different locations and talked to some of their staff, a lot of these places are short-staffed right now. And because they're in the process of bringing back their customers, those staffing levels are difficult to predict. And so the housekeepers that are there are actually working double time sometimes to be able to provide the services that we're normally used to getting. And so keeping that in mind when you're going to these hotels and these locations is really important. But, talking to some of their health and hygiene folks, because most of the hotel chains have identified key individuals that are paying really close attention to this. They are enjoying the fact that they're here to help, that they're here to work with their staff and also their customers, making sure that people feel confident and that they trust the fact that they're being taken care of from a healthy standpoint.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That is so important. That's for sure. So GBAC, the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, what is that, and how are you helping hotels help their housekeepers to help the general public feel healthy and safe so they'll travel even more?
Early on in the pandemic, we were really doing a lot of high-level response type training, focusing on, high-risk environments. My background is a lot of biorisk management, and most of our scientific advisory board we were front lines with Ebola back in 2014,
right.
And other situations. Well, that shifted, and what we recognized, we launched training online, but what was really needed was, how do we reopen? Can you help us? And I have a very strong background in management systems, and John Barrett came to me from ISSA and said, hey, you know what? We need to have some type of a program. So we launched the accreditation program, the GBAC Star right here, where we work with facilities and organizations and service providers on looking at what we call 20 elements very quality management program to make sure that they have the procedures in place that can, assure that the workers are safe, that the customers feel comfortable, and their communities as well. And we launched that in May of 2020. And we now have, we have about 1,500, I think, hotels around the world that are accredited. Almost 4,000 facilities in general, as far as different types of facilities that are either committed or are already accredited. And we work with these one-on-one sometimes. We work on programs for their cleaning, disinfection, infection prevention measures, which includes indoor air quality, so that they're ready to respond, as well as looking for the future on being resilient so that they do not have to shut down again in the future.
Right. And you're part of, is it ISSA or ISSA?
It's easy to say ISSA. Yes, the World Leading Trade Association for the Cleaning Industry. GBAC is a division of ISSA.
Right. That makes a whole lot of sense. Anthony?
So how does it feel to be the kid that nobody pays attention to because everything's great, and then all of a sudden there's a global pandemic and you're the most important kid at the table?
Well, it's really interesting. I'll have to say, I wrote an article in the fall of 2019, right after I had joined ISSA, and the article was published the first week of January, and it basically said a pandemic is coming and we're not prepared.
Oh my God.
You must be so upset that you were right about that.
Why do you think a pandemic was coming?
From a biosafety standpoint and an infectious disease, individual that, provided support to healthcare, to high containment laboratories. And I have been a proponent that biosafety really applies outside the laboratory, is that we knew that when you look at flu epidemics and pandemics, that there was something that we would see a global epidemic or pandemic at some point in time in the future. We didn't know when. Unfortunately, it was only about a week or two later that the pandemic was announced by WHO. And, when you look at what we had in place, everything was always, healthcare preparedness, which was definitely necessary. And we realized that, we still have work to do. But when we look at that front line, making sure that we are prepared to be able to protect the workers going in, to make sure that when they do clean a hotel room, whether it's a hotel room, a lobby, that they know exactly the types of things that they need to have in place so that what they're doing is actually effective and efficient, was something that we really didn't have any programs out there as a global, let's say, community. And it was definitely needed. And that's where we are today.
Wow. I'm so glad that we're not where we were when you were writing that article. What have you learned during this particular time? And what do you think the hotel industry has learned over this last year and a half or so?
We still have challenges with training. When you think about the number of individuals that need to go through training and the amount of training, we're starting basically at ground zero and making it, scientifically digestible for that front line in a way that they can understand. And then what's meaningful for them too was difficult in the very beginning, especially when, as I described it, you were watching science happen. And people are more used to having the results that come back at the end. In this situation, you would have a theory and people were trying to either prove the theory and it might change the next day. And so that was really difficult for a lot of people. And we heard a lot of what we would call mixed messages. And so being consistent, being, I equate it to, I look at it from a biorisk management or biosafety standpoint. What are those things that I would be telling, one of my clients or one of my customers in the past on what to do? And I call it a layered effect. You need to be able to apply this from a layering standpoint so that you are eliminating the risks so that we can move forward.
Yeah, but it must be so, it's in our face, and obviously for the last 2 years, it's been our whole life, right? It's changed the world. But it must be so difficult to get people to put in preventative maintenance, preventative steps, because it's not in their face. It's not taking over their world. So they don't even think about it. It's like, whatever you do, it seems like it's a boring job, right? So yeah, you prevent diseases, whatever. I don't, I play baseball, or I'm in the hospitality business. Yeah, good luck. Nothing's going to happen. I was on the preparedness team when I was in the Air Force, and I would volunteer a month. And I was bored, I'll be honest with you, because we were always doing things to get ready for a problem that never occurred. And I got bored because that's my personality. So how do you get people to get ready for things like this when typically most people are like me? They're like, I'm not interested until I'm interested, because now it's affecting me and my family.
That's a really good point, because I mean, you and I, I'm sure all three of us have been to training where it's like, oh, good Lord, let's just get it over with. I have to check this box and let's get it done. To be able to make training that's meaningful takes time and effort, and it is difficult. When we were getting the medical team ready to accept the first 2 Ebola patients at Emory, when I was at Emory, I had to teach them something as simple as very meticulous putting on and taking off personal protective equipment. Well, when they know that patient's coming in, everybody's interested, everybody wants to, but to be prepared ahead of time for a potential, you're absolutely right. So making sure that, you do have some interactive activities for people, making sure that it's meaningful at what they're doing. It's a challenge, but it can be done. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do right now, is look at what is the awareness and what do people really need to know? And then how do you keep it live? How do you, have things like the S.H.I.N.E Award, have things like different types of competitions or awareness modules that can be put together to make it important for them.
Yeah, I remember when they accepted the Ebola cases. I mean, that was all over the news, right? And so you were right there on the front lines, huh?
Yes, I was part of Team Ebola at Emory. I was the head of environmental health and safety at Emory University for both healthcare and the university. At the same time, I was on the external advisory board for CDC to the director of CDC.
How scary, but super interesting at the same time for you.
Mm-hmm. It very well was.
When you were in high school, did you say that's what you wanted to do?
Oh man, take me back to high school. No, I didn't really. I knew I loved science. And so I ended up getting a degree in biochemistry and was in the lab for about 7 or 8 years. I never thought I'd go into safety in general and research safety. I happened to support on the pharmaceutical side when I was in pharma, infectious disease research, researchers. And it kind of grew from there. And some of it has been, you were at the right place at the right time, I guess you might say, being there at Emory when we got the Ebola patients. And then
most people would say that's the wrong time and the wrong place.
What I tell people though is that, an emergency medicine physician, they train to be, able to be prepared in the event that something really bad happens. Yep. And, from the colleagues that I work with very closely, Dr. Gavin McGregor Skinner, who's on our board, we've trained all our lives to be in the situation where when the need is there, we're there to help. And you hope that it never happens. You hope that never a pandemic happens. But I'm very humbled that we have been here to be able to work with people.
And in training is confidence. I remember when I broke my ankle and my bones were sticking out my leg, and there was this kid that looked like he was maybe 9 years old, and he was my doctor, emergency room doctor. And I remember pointing to somebody else and go, I want him. And next thing I know, all my bones are back in my leg. And this kid didn't sweat. He didn't raise his voice. He was calm. He was cool, like he'd been training his whole life, because he has been. He turned out to be 25 years old. He literally looked like he was 12 or maybe younger. And he was so calm. And he immediately, once he started touching my leg, a calmness came over me, because you can just see all the training, like literally coming through his ability. And it was fascinating.
So my eldest son just finished his residency, and he's been called Doogie Howger, or Doogie, Doogie Howe, you know who I'm talking about. And my youngest son is currently a third year resident. He's a doctor in Texas right now.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they do get that, you walk in and it's like, you're not old enough for this, are you?
Right. You know what I learned there is I don't care how old you are, just make sure all my bones go back in my leg. But well, congratulations on your doctors.
All right, so I got to tell you, Patty, the pandemic thing is scary, but you know what else really scares me is the sense of complacency that I'm getting a little concerned with. I've been visiting a lot of public places, not just hotels, but other venues, and a lot of those hand sanitizers, for example, and a lot of the wipes that they have, I'm seeing a lot more empty ones than full ones these days. So how do we get people to focus on keeping going over and over and over again, though it can become so repetitive and so difficult to do that?
So that is a really good point, and it's one that we've really been focusing on here recently. I'll have another article that comes out here this next couple weeks, and it's really about layering effects. We know we want to get back to whatever normalcy is, and those layered levels are: one, we know that there's a vaccine out there, we know that it is safe and effective. And that it prevents people from being seriously ill and or death. And so that's really important for people to understand and consider. The other is masks do work. It provides that layer of protection for you, and it also provides a protection in the event that maybe, you're asymptomatic, but you're shedding virus, and it protects others, especially when you're in mass gathering situations.
Right.
You walk into that elevator, you know what? I'm going to wear my mask on that elevator. I've even chosen to take the next elevator. The third is keep your distance. If you can social distance in situations, you feel a little bit more confident. I have 7 layers really that we talk about. Make sure that your facility addresses the ventilation issues. We know that this is primarily an airborne pathogen, but so is the flu and other things. So understand what your ventilation is. Wash your hands, like you said. And then as a facility, make sure that you keep stock available for hand washing and hand sanitizer. Clean and disinfect surfaces. And I'm going to talk about this because this is really important, especially for our S.H.I.N.E folks. We know that this virus is primarily airborne, but we also know that you can become scientifically infected. We know scientifically that you can become infected by touching a surface that's contaminated, touching your eyes, your nose, or your mouth.
Right.
We don't know the percentage, but we know it's possible. It could be 1%, 10%, 20%. We don't know. And so with that, it's really important to continue to look at hygienic cleaning and a disinfection step while we're trying to get through this. And then the last one is make sure you get educated. Make sure that your staff is, gets that awareness about this virus and the important parts of keeping themselves safe and their customers safe.
In the beginning of this pandemic, a lot of hotels were keeping rooms out of order for a day to give it a chance to air out. If somebody has the infection and they're in the hotel room and a couple of hours goes by and somebody else checks in, how likely is it that the virus is still in the air?
That's a good point. There are so many different questions about that I would have as a follow-up if I was doing a risk evaluation for them. What's the airflow in the room? How many air turnovers do they have? Did they clean and disinfect the room prior,
Right.
strip the room? There are a lot of questions that you'd need to answer that. But the fact that, you do have a turnover, you do air out the room, and with the way that I've seen a lot of these hotels and their procedures, it's a very safe place to then be able to enter into.
Right. That makes,
We just spoke.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We just spoke to Harry, who's the president of Norwegian Cruise Lines, and I'm telling you, I was a little hesitant to think about cruising again. And after speaking to him, it seems like it's the safest place on earth.
They are very, obviously the cruise line has been just devastated by this virus. And they've had to really up their game, you might say, on what they're putting in place and making sure, like you said, so that people feel confident and trust that they're ready to bring back their cruisers.
They've put in a ventilation system that probably would have been 10, 15, 20 years from now that they've implemented in all their cruise lines, in all their ships. And just the protocols from the vaccine, everybody's got to be vaccinated, everybody gets on the ship's got to be tested. It really does seem like the safest place. And this isn't going away. And that's the one, to get back to your point, Glenn, it's the one area I really feel that will not be mediocre going forward. There are some, and I think I told you offline, the hotel brands I'm worried about, and the hotel brands I think that will stay up on it. And I've traveled, and just the ones I thought would stay up on it have, and the ones I didn't think would, I'm going and I'm finding empty containers such as you are. But I think in the cruise industry, I think their standard is here to stay.
Yes, well, they've always been pretty good about that. Now I'm sure they're going to stick with it. I mean, everything depends on those ships being safe. So speaking about safety and stuff like that, be sure to nominate your housekeeper. Go to cintas.com/shine awards. They can win $5,000. Your property could win a whole lot of stuff. And right after that, go check out our interview with Harry Sommer, President and CEO of Norwegian Cruise Lines. Patty, is there anything else that we should know?
You know what? This is time. You said it perfectly. It's time that we don't relax on some things. We're going into the flu season, those times when we're in enclosed spaces more often. Just pay very close attention to things. We want to be able to enjoy our families over the holidays. And so, don't relax over the next few months. Keep this up. I know everybody's going through pandemic fatigue, as we call it, but it's important, especially when you're looking at resilience and being able to remain open and, nominate your cleaning staff or your favorite cleaning person.
So I want to ask you one question before we leave, because it was on my mind this morning. I was in New York. New York looked like it was back to normal. The hotels are open. The restaurants are open. Yes, you have to have a vaccine card to get into some of these museums and restaurants. But it really, by and large, seemed normal. I saw very few masks when people were walking outside. Do we just now get back to life with with COVID-19 like we did with the flu? Are we going to see COVID-19 3 years from now? Are we still going to be dealing with it 5 years from now? And now it just became another thing we worry about. We put our seatbelt on. We don't drink and drive. We during flu season, some of us get the vaccine, the flu vaccine. Some of us don't. It's just another thing we're dealing with. Yes or no?
Oh, yes or no? I think we're going to see COVID-19 around for a long time. And I think that, booster shots are going to be part of our world for a while. And because it's so widespread, I don't see it just going away anytime soon.
Anytime soon within the 5 years?
I think you're right. I think that it would not surprise me if we're still at least seeing cases in the next, 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
Well, that's very sobering, which is why it is so important for the hospitality industry to keep those rooms clean, keep people feeling safe, and keep people motivated. And the best way you keep people motivated is, hey, get them in on this competition. Because after all, according to Nicole Beal over at Cintas Corporation, where she's the Senior Director of Hospitality and Gaming, she's like, talented housekeepers are working tirelessly to uphold cleanliness during this difficult time and don't often have a chance to be separated. Celebrate this time.
And thank you, Nicole and Cintas, for putting this together and working with everyone to really recognize the most important people in our industry.
Yeah, Cintas, we can't thank you enough. This has been amazing, and I'm so honored to work with you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here, Patty. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a great
day.
Yes,
thank you.
Anthony, so it's so great to see that the industry is rallying behind those housekeepers. It's so important that we recognize them particularly right now.
Absolutely. And, listen, I'm going to say it's important everyone to get their vaccine to protect them, to protect everyone else. It's understanding. I refuse to have pandemic fatigue, simply because I'm going to go about my life, wear my mask when I have to, and then just go about my life. Because you know what? When I put my mask on, 3 seconds later, I forget it's there anyway. So
Right.
it really hasn't, in the last few months, hasn't hindered me from going about my life.
Yeah,
And the faster we get people vaccinated, the faster it goes away.
Yeah, it's funny about the whole mask thing. Sometimes I leave it on, I forget it's on. I'm walking around and I'll be like doing it for like 10, 15 minutes outside. I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize I had it on. I totally forgot about it. What a waste of having it on my face. But
Yeah.
that's a good, you put those things on, you forget about it.
Yeah, and it's great that Cintas is really putting the housekeeper in the forefront, as they always do. It's critical, and like I said, you and I knew who would lack, and they're being lackadaisical about some of the protocols, and it's I look for it now. The hand sanitizers and the cloths are no longer a pandemic standard.
That's
It's
right.
a hotel standard now.
Mhm.
You know, how many times have we opened doors in hotels and we're all skeeved out? So everybody wants a hand sanitizer outside a public bathroom in every hotel, every restaurant, everywhere you go.
Yep. Not that hard. Got to keep a focus on it. Keep your eye on the ball and recognize those great housekeepers by doing the 2021 Cintas S.H.I.N.E Awards. Anything before we wrap up that you'd like to get out there, Anthony?
Yes, if you don't have a computer stand to put your computer or iPhone on for a podcast,
Yes.
these work really well.
Giant Jenga. All right. Pro tip right there, right from the host.
Jenga blocks.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow. So remember, you've got one life to blaze on, and
Be kind to yourself.
nominate those housekeepers. See you later.
And don't talk over